Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Someone Scott Selections here for Tuesday, April 12th. Before getting today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. Unfortunately, the winning streak came to an end as we picked up a loss with the Mariners and the Twins over 9 at minus 115 on Bet Online. Really wasn't that close. Flexen did struggle like I thought he would, but Bundy was absolutely fantastic. Both bullpens were absolutely nails. And yeah, the Mariners only had 2 hits, so they basically no-showed the game. But unfortunate, both teams had a couple of opportunities there with runners in scoring position. Didn't pan out, but it really wasn't that close. Picked up a loss there. Look for a winner here on Tuesday. And for the play of the day, we finally have the return of basketball after the day off in between the regular season and the playing games. And for the play that we're going to go to the Western Conference playing game between the Clippers and the Timberwolves, taking place at around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for the play of the day, we're going to take the road team here. We're going to take the Clippers plus 3.5 at minus 110 on Bet Online. Time recording of a 2:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Couple reasons why I like the Clippers in this spot. First of all, they faced 4 times in the regular season, and the Clippers basically dominated the regular season meetings. The Clippers won 3 of those 4 meetings, and each of those 3 wins came by at least 11 points. So Minnesota has definitely struggled against the Clippers so far this season. On top of that, we already know that the Clippers were shorthanded for the majority of the season. Of course, Kawhi Leonard's still not back, but you do have Paul George, who's back. You have Norman Powell, who's a very solid scorer off the bench. And you also have Robert Covington, who has missed a couple of games here and there, but he is healthy once again, and he is definitely one of the best defenders on the team. So the Clippers are much healthier at this point in the year than they were previously, and I do think that will bode well for Los Angeles on a Tuesday. Plus, Minnesota's defense has been an absolute train wreck for the last 2 weeks. The Timberwolves have allowed at least 121 points in each of their last 7 games. So they can't really stop anybody. And the Clippers, we know, when they are fully dialed in, are an elite defensive team. They were top 10 in the league in defensive efficiency with all the injuries. Paul George, we know, is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. I think he's definitely top 10, top 15. So he should definitely help out the Clippers' overall defense. And I expect Minnesota to struggle to get enough stops in order to actually win this game by at least 4 points. On top of that, Minnesota enters this game in pretty terrible form while the Clippers have been rolling entering the playoffs. Minnesota has lost 6 of its last 10 games, while the Clippers have won each of their last 5 games. Now, you could argue, well, what was the motivation for Minnesota or for LA? The argument could be that the Clippers had less motivation than Minnesota because the Clippers were basically locked into the 8th seed for the last, I don't even know, a couple of weeks at this point. And Minnesota, though, was still competing with Denver for a shot at potentially getting the 6 and getting out of the play-in game. And yet Minnesota really didn't do much down the stretch. They struggled against some decent teams. They had the good road win against Denver, which was kind of the peak of the last 2 weeks, but didn't really look overly impressive in many of those games. So I am concerned that Minnesota might have peaked too early, so to speak, as they have been playing some underwhelming basketball down the stretch. Plus, if you want to go through the actual, let's just say, experience differential, it's pretty huge between these 2 teams because Minnesota has the 7th youngest roster in the league. In other words, they really don't have much playoff experience. Of course, Towns was on the playoff team a couple of years ago. They lost in 5 games to the Rockets. That's it. That's the entire extent of his playoff experience. Beverly, of course, has experience with the Clippers and with some other teams. They don't have many guys when it comes to experience, and I am kind of wondering how this team is going to look in postseason basketball. Well, it's going to be the first time there for a decent amount of the overall roster. On the other hand, you have the Clippers, who are in the playoffs virtually every year at this point. They've had the Western Conference Finals recently. They've had some experience. And I do expect the Clippers to look extremely comfortable, and I don't expect nerves to play a factor. Now, it might not play a factor for Minnesota at home because they have been good at home this season, but I am expecting the Timberwolves to personally struggle a little bit transitioning to the overall pace and tone of playoff basketball, potentially by officials. And I think that Minnesota will struggle in such an atmosphere with the added pressure because this is their first playoff appearance in several years. Plus, to go through the actual meetings recently, I mentioned how the Clippers have done well this season. That is definitely not a fluke because the Clippers have dominated the last couple of years. Los Angeles is 15-6-1 ATS in the last 22 meetings in Minnesota. So the Clippers have historically traveled well here. But at the end of the day, you could think the Clippers are going to win the game. I personally do as well. But 3.5 is a lot of points to be laying for really an unproven playoff team. I understand they were good in the regular season, but the recent form's not great. The defense has been disastrous, and the Clippers are suddenly getting a lot healthier. And of course, Ty Lue, I think, is one of the most underrated coaches in the league. Finch is great too. Shout out to him for getting the extension. But I do think that the Clippers have the coaching advantage. Of course, Ty Lue with winning the ring with LeBron definitely helps. But the point is, I think the Clippers are definitely live to win this game. I think there's a decent chance they do win this game. I'm going to dare the young team to rise to the occasion and to beat a veteran-laden team. I don't think they're going to do it, but I'm going to take the 3.5 because I think that this line should probably close at 2.5 with some late Clipper money coming in. So play that once again here for Tuesday, April 12th. It's going to be on the Clippers plus 3.5 at minus 110 on Bet Online. Bye, everyone.